All very exciting stuff. The Bible tells us how Moses led the Israelites through the midst of the Red Sea. Now, the children of Israel traveled to the true Mount Sinai in Saudi Arabia across the Gulf of Aqaba. The Bible says that Mount Sinai is in Saudi Arabia in Galatians. It says in Galatians 4:25, "For this Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia." Now, unfortunately, a lot of visitors to Israel are taken to St. Catherine's Monastery in the Sinai Peninsula, which was actually named by Queen Helena in AD 342. Well, unfortunately, she didn't read the Bible, because the Bible is very specific that Mount Sinai is in Arabia. Now, the children of Israel lived originally in Goshen, up in the top left there, and many maps in the back of Bibles assume that the Red Sea was crossed near Succoth on the top left of your picture there, where there's the Sea of Reeds, but it's only 3 foot deep there. And I'll tell you what would be a miracle is if Pharaoh's army was drowned in 3 foot of water. No, the children of Israel, and Moses led them, were on their way to Mount Sinai in Arabia, bottom right, and had to cross one of the deepest waterways on the planet, the Gulf of Aqaba. So there's an aerial photograph of Nawiba Beach in Egypt, and Eilat, which is a holiday area now in the southern part of Israel, and the Dead Sea above that. Now, there's an aerial photograph of the Gulf of Aqaba, and there are very, very few beaches along that western coast, but Nawiba Beach is the biggest one, and you can also see what's called the Wadi Witter. It's a deep river gorge tracking through the mountains. So actually, I've travelled a Land Rover with Pastor Derek Walker from Oxford in the United Kingdom, in a Land Rover down that Wadi Witter through the mountains. And it says in the scriptures that Pharaoh decided that the children of Israel were hemmed in by the mountains on their way to Nawiba Beach. So you can travel along that Wadi Witter, the dried up riverbed, and that's what the children of Israel did. Of course, there wasn't tarmac in those days. They were hemmed in by the mountains, but they found their way to Nawiba Beach, which is a very large beach. There's an aerial photograph of Nawiba Beach, and you can actually see very clearly there the Wadi Witter, the riverbed through the mountains. There's Nawiba Beach, and from Nawiba Beach you look across 8 miles of water to Saudi Arabia, because they were on their way to Mount Sinai. Now, on Nawiba Beach is the Egyptian fort of Pi-Hahiroth, and that's mentioned in Exodus 14, verse 2. The Egyptian fort of Pi-Hahiroth. Now, there's the actual crossing route from Egypt on the western side to Saudi Arabia on the right, and there's 8 miles of very, very deep waterway there. It's very deep indeed. It's a mile deep there, except at that particular crossing point, because God knew in advance that this is the actual place where the children of Israel were going to cross from Egypt to Saudi Arabia. So God actually arranged for there to be a land bridge just under the water. It's only about 60 feet deep there, and that's the only part of the only part of the Red Sea there, the Gulf of Aqaba, that is actually so shallow. In fact, if you go there are marker buoys telling and warning the passing ships to be very careful there, because it's very, very shallow water. There's an Admiralty map showing that it's very, very shallow there, between Egypt and Saudi Arabia at the Exodus crossing site. Now, Ron Wyatt discovered not one, but two columns, one on the western shore and one on the eastern shore. And on the eastern shore, they're about 60 feet high. In ancient Hebrew were written these words. I can't pronounce the Hebrew, so I won't try, but in the bottom left it said, Solomon, Yahweh, Moses, Mizraim, Pharaoh, Death, and Edom. And we don't know exactly what that means, but we'll make a guess. King Solomon erected this column to commemorate the time when Yahweh, the God of the universe, led Moses from Mizraim, which is Egypt, where the children of Israel were under Pharaoh, and certain death to Edom, which is Saudi Arabia. Now, unfortunately, the stone, the column on the eastern bank has actually been removed by the Saudi government and put in a museum somewhere. And there's just a marker column there now. Now, I'm very friendly with Aaron Sen, who worked with Ron Wyatt for 3.5 years. And I'm also friendly with Ross Patterson in New Zealand, though I've never met him, but we chat to each other on email. But they're friends with each other, and they went, or have frequently been, diving in the Red Sea together. And Aaron Sen found a chariot hub, and in fact lots of chariot hubs under the Red Sea. There's a chariot hub from one of the chariots that in Pharaoh's army. There's another chariot wheel. There's another chariot wheel. There's a good one. There's the chariot wheel turned on its side, the axle and the wheel. There's another chariot wheel. Another one, the spoke of a chariot wheel. There's another one, all preserved in coral. There's another one. Here's actually a femur, that's a thigh bone preserved in coral on the right-hand side, and there's a normal femur on the left-hand side, a human femur. You can see they're both human femurs, but the one on the right was found in the Red Sea, the Gulf of Aqaba. It belonged to, probably, it belonged to one of the soldiers in Pharaoh's army. Here's a very exciting slide. It's actually an Egyptian chariot axle preserved in coral, and look at that rusted iron there. And there's a human femur, a thigh bone preserved in coral. And there, if you look carefully, you can see rib cages, human rib cages preserved in coral. Now here's a very exciting photograph of a golden chariot wheel. Now who do you think would have a golden chariot wheel? Well, there's only one candidate really, and that would be Pharaoh himself. Unlike the movie, The Ten Commandments, Pharaoh of course drowned with all his soldiers in the Red Sea. There is that golden chariot wheel. It hasn't been moved because if it was, it would fall to bits. There's a horse's hoof found in the Gulf of Aqaba. Now, Dr. Nassif Mohammed Hassan is important. He's a director of the Egyptian Antiquities Authority, and he explained that the 8-spoke wheel was from only the 18th dynasty. And this was approximately in 1446 BC, which is the time of Ramesses II, the Bible described him as Pharaoh, and Tutmosis, who we would call Moses. So this is the right type of wheel under the Red Sea, preserved in coral. And again, this site has been specifically confirmed by Dr. Leonard Moller and 6 other academic researchers. And here's an extract from Dr. Leonard Moller's book, The Exodus Case, confirming the golden chariot wheel.